are listening to the Thornapple Valley Church podcast. Thank you for joining us. Our hope is for you to be encouraged and to connect with God during this message. If you'd like to know more about Thornapple Valley Church, visit tvcweb.com.
Good morning, everybody. So, all right, I'm going to have to, I don't want the clapping, just the good morning back, all right? So I'm looking for some energy here. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I mean, you are the 11:30 crowd. I know some of you are just showing up. Glad to have you with us, and welcome everybody who's joining us online. We're so glad that you're with us and that you experience God's presence in some way through this service. It's already just been really, really good. So a few weeks ago, I was down in West Virginia fishing. I've been doing that for probably 20 years or better with some family. That's where my dad's side is from. And I love going to West Virginia. I mean, I love going to West Virginia, the mountains there where my family is. It's amazing. But it is so rural. I mean, it is so rural. If you stop your vehicle and you get off the road and walk down into the woods and you don't know where you're at, you can be lost in a snap. I am telling you this because I know it from personal experience, all right? Because when I was in my mid-teens, I was down there with family deer hunting around Thanksgiving, and I'm down there, and I had somehow got separated from the group of guys that I was with, and I was walking, I thought I knew where I was, and suddenly I just kind of pulled up and went, I'm not really sure which way I'm supposed to go. Ever been in that situation? And I mean, I did, and this is the mountain in West Virginia. Everywhere you look, you can do a 360, and all it is rocks and hills and trees and laurel bushes, and that's all there is. And so I turned all the way around, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am completely lost. I don't know where to go. Probably the only smart thing I did was I decided not to just keep walking. So I stopped, and I said to myself, you have to understand, this is just at the edge of dark right now. And so I said to myself, I'm just going to start yelling. Somebody will surely hear me. So I'm screaming, and it was humiliating. I'm in my mid-teens, to be like, help, does anybody know where I am? Like I don't. And nobody responded. Nobody answered. Now it is the end of November cold, and I am scared to death. So I had heard that if you shot your rifle 3 times, that was a universal signal of distress and that somebody would come. What I didn't know, so I shot my rifle 3 times. What I didn't know is in West Virginia, that just means you're a bad shot, you're stupid, we're going to ignore you completely. So no one came, no one responded. I'm yelling, I'm shooting, I'm shouting, I'm doing everything I know to do, and nobody's coming there. And now it's dark, and I am freezing. It is so cold, and I imagine now that I'm going to die. I picture myself frozen solid when they find me sitting against a tree, my back against a tree somewhere with the rifle in my hand. I shot, I tried, you didn't hear me. And I'm thinking to myself, my mom is going to be heartbroken. My brother's not so much. My mom is going to be totally heartbroken over this whole thing. And it's dark, and I'm scared. I'm shaking, literally. I don't know what's going to happen. And then I hear one of my uncles yell, I'm here, Jeff. You're all right, relax. And so he comes down to me, and the first thing he says to me, he looks at me and he goes, do you know where you are? And I thought that was the stupidest question I'd ever been asked in my life, because I would not be standing there fearful, shaking from fear and cold if I knew where I was. Turns out I was less than 100 yards from the high field of the old home place. Now, what you have to understand is that my family, my dad's side was from West Virginia. From infancy, I had been going down every year in the summertime for a week to West Virginia. I had baled hay in that field. I'd picked berries up there. I knew that perfectly well. I knew that area so well. And I'm in spitting distance from it and lost all at the same time, that close to it, and yet I couldn't find it. And if somebody had just put a sign up, something like, Grandma's place, that way, I would have been able. Does anybody ever feel like you wish you had a sign somewhere because it just feels like you don't know which way to go or which way to turn and you're lost? Well, this book that we're going through called Ecclesiastes, there's an interesting thing about this book. I actually view it as sort of like a book of signs or a roadmap, if you will, where the author helps us understand how to deal with, how to navigate the maze of craziness and activities and all the stuff that happens in life. Much of, and we've been learning this, most of it, in fact, is stuff that's actually meaningless, stuff that really doesn't mean anything at all. And I love how the author, whom we believe is Solomon, who calls himself the teacher as he's writing this booklet, I love how he writes, because it's not like this in your face, hey, stupid, just do this and you'll be fine. It's very subtle. In fact, when you first read the book of Ecclesiastes, there's kind of this feeling like this is just the rant of a depressed, like clinically depressed person. But if you go deeper, you see that there's such depth and wealth here that helps point us in directions so that we can navigate this stuff around us. And this week we're looking at chapter 3. And this is the same thing. As you read this, we're going to read just the first little chunk of it. But as you read it, it's going to feel repetitious. It's going to feel like like the mindless rants of a person who's not really paying attention. But just watch it. Listen for what he has to say. So we're going to begin chapter 3, verse 1. He says, there is a time for, say that next word out loud. All right, let's see if we can get 6 people to do it. There is a time for everything. He says there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. Time to be born, time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to tear down, a time to build, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. I told you it's repetitious. He says there's a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, and time to keep, a time to throw away, time to tear, time to mend, a time to be silent, and a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, time for war and a time for peace. Now, when I read this, I don't know what it's like for you, but my first blush response is kind of like, well, I can get on board with, I get some of it, like a time to speak, a time to be silent. It makes sense to me. But some of it doesn't make sense, not easily. A time to hate, a time to kill, a time for war, a time to mourn, a time to die. Isn't that the stuff that we spend so much of our lives and our energy and our resources fighting? We want to stop that. We want to stop people from mourning. We want to stop people from having their lives torn down. We want to stop people from dying. Whatever it is, we spend so much energy and time. What is the point here? Actually, if you dig a little deeper, you see that his point actually is profound. What he's telling us here is that by, and don't miss this, divine design, we live in a world that has seasons. Seasons. It's interesting when you go back to the very start. This is what he says, and I had you read this. There is a time for what? There's a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. There's a time for everything. Seasons, now, when you think about seasons, by design, particularly natural seasons, they're things that come and then they go. But more than that, they are things that are out of your control. You can't manipulate them. You don't have control over them. For example, winter. When I say winter, most people hear it and they're like, oh, I hate winter. You hate it, but you don't really have the option with winter, do you? I mean, it's like nobody calls and says, you think we should have winter this year, or should we just bypass that? I mean, winter just happens, right? It comes. So what you have to do is you have to learn to face it. You have to learn to live with and in it and adapt to it. That's how it works. And I think he keeps repeating himself because what he wants us to see, and this is really important, is that life is not just, winter and spring and summer and fall, all that stuff. It's life is actually full of seasons. Your life is full of different kinds of seasons. It's full of things that are larger than you, that you can't control. In fact, I would contend that really if you read this, at least from one angle, the angle I'm coming at it from, that's what he's talking about, the subject of control. That's his whole point, is that there's so much in life that's out of your control. He's reminding us that life is filled with this kind of stuff. And of course, you know that. You know that, kind of. I mean, you know that you had no control over being born and how you were born and all that. And we also know that most people would not choose to die, but you have no control over death, that at some point it happens. Last I looked, death rate is still at, does anybody know? Like 100%, right? So there's so much. You know that. And I know this sounds a little remedial, but just hang with me because this will speak to you if you'll listen. If we're honest, most of us reject the idea of seasons. We would never say it necessarily like that, but living with seasons, living within seasons means we learn how to adapt to them. But what most of us do is we fight against the seasons. We rage back against the seasons. See if you can relate to this. All right, this is just a simple thing, but you have a big day at work. You've got appointments. You've got projects you got to do. You got all kinds of things going, and you're an adult. You're a big person now, and so you're off to work, and you decide I'm going to go early, and I'm going to get there early so I can really make a difference today. I can really accomplish a lot. But on your way there, you get in a traffic jam, which of course in Berry County is a huge tractor in the middle of the highway, stopping everyone from going and not even think. And so it's a traffic jam, and you finally get there and you're like, oh, you're already upset. And then things aren't going. People didn't come through with what they were supposed to on their part of the project, and things aren't going right. And then you get a phone call, and it's the school of one of your kids, and they're saying, you need to get here ASAP because your kid is sick. And now you are at a fork in the road, right? And you can respond to this in one of two ways. You can respond to this by going, oh, I cannot believe this is happening to me. I'm working so hard and doing everything I know to do, and people are just sabotaging my life. Stinking kids, why did I have that kid anyhow? And you got all this stuff going on the inside. That's one way you can respond. Or the other way you can respond is with a sense of calmness. Because you recognize that there are some things, in fact, there are many things in life that are just beyond your control. So here's my question for you. Which way do you mostly respond when you hit the fork? Don't be looking holy now. Just be honest here, all right? Which way do you respond? Most of us respond the way I too often respond, with this simmering anger, with this frustration, and then you're going to get your kid at school, and what you want to do is kill the slow person in front of you and you wish they were sick and dead and out of the way. So you got all this stuff going on the inside of you. It's an interesting thing. For whatever reason, there's something in us that wants to control everything in our lives. But Solomon reminds us of this important truth. And I'm going to tell you this truth, and you're not going to want to hear it, but it's really true. And this is I'm hoping you'll get this, really, that you don't have much control. Welcome to church. Where you're reminded that now I'm not saying, and the truth is you know this, you don't have that. When you're a kid, of course, this is how it works, right? The adults are making all the decisions, and you're like, oh, I hate those stinking adults. I can't wait until I can become mature and be in total control. And then you get mature and you think you're in control, but you're not in control of the vast majority. Now, I didn't say that you have no control. I say you don't have much control. See, what the person who doesn't rage against stuff, the person who took the fork in the road of calmness, of saying, well, there's seasons, they understand that there's an ebb and a flow in life. And of course, you can fight the stuff, and you can be angry and resentful and frustrated, but it doesn't make any difference. You're still going to be in that season, whatever that thing is. Or you can be aware that there is a greater and far more brilliant design than your own. That is one of God's, that life has seasons. Short ones. What season are you in right now? What do you think? Long seasons. Seasons to plant, seasons to uproot, times to laugh, times to cry. Notice what he says, and I want to just remind you of this. He said he had made everything beautiful. Would you read the next three words out loud with me, please? In its time. Everything. This is interesting. He has made everything beautiful. Even stuff we don't think is beautiful, even stuff we don't like, but it's beautiful in its time, or in other words, in its season. Such a key point there. There's something so powerful that happens when we start to understand that everything has a time. Now, I want you to hear this. You don't have much control, but you do have choice. You absolutely have a choice. See, where you have absolute control, not over the seasons. Seasons are going to come whether you want them to or not. Things are going to be great, and then things are going to go south, and things are going to be in between. There's going to be all kinds of seasons, and you don't have a choice of whether or not you're in them. But what you have control over is how you respond to them. You have absolute control there. As Viktor Frankl, a psychologist, famously said, talking about the idea of responsibility, he just reworded it, and this is what he said. He said, we have responsibility. See, when you're at that fork in the road, when you're at that place, you have the ability to choose which place you go. Do you rage against the season? Are you angry and resentful and frustrated and just all you can think of is I want out? Or do you calmly understand that there's something more than your design? So much of life is out of your control. And it's interesting to me because so many of us, including me, I'm going to say this, I think Michiganders are this way. This is what we say. We say we love the seasons. You know, people will say that. Well, I love the changing seasons. So wonderful. No, you really don't. Come on, be honest with me. You like certain temperatures. You have a window of temperatures. What's your window of temperature? You have a window of temperature. Mine's like mid-60s to about 70, and that's where it ends, right there, baby. And what I can tell you is that as you age, the window gets smaller and smaller and smaller. You like temperatures, but you want them to be your way. You like rain. You want rain from 2 in the morning to 4 in the morning. Come on. And not too much because you don't want mud. You want to hit the sweet spot in life and you want to stay there. Is that true? You want to have puppy love. And you're married for 30 years now, and you want it to be the same way it was the first time you saw her or him. You want everything. You want everything to the right and up and looking great and wonderful, but that is not real life. And so when seasons change, like children, so often what we do instead of understanding there are seasons is we simply throw temper tantrums, and we've lost sight of the fact that life has seasons. Things begin, things end. Now, I think some of you are starting to get this, and that's encouraging me, but I think the person next to you is not. So this is what I want you to do. Just turn to them and instruct them. Just look at them and say, life is full of seasons. Tell them. Come on. Say it in a way that shows you're superior and more intelligent than them, all right? Life is full of seasons. There are starts, there are stops. Even if you don't want it. Even if you don't like it. Even if you want it to go away. Even wonderful things have an ending. That is life. I love what author Henry Cloud writes in a book that he wrote, a great book called Necessary Endings. He says this is so powerful. He says, endings are not only part of life, they're a requirement for living and for thriving, both professionally and personally. He says, being alive requires that we sometimes kill off things which we were once invested, uproot what we previously had nurtured, and tear down what we built for an earlier time. And he's absolutely right in this. Life is filled with beginnings and endings, but so often what we do is we rebel against it. No, I want it to stay this way. This is the sweet spot. This is where I want to be. This is amazing. And so what happens is when we rebel against it, when we fight against it instead of understand the season and learn how to live in it, we prop up what needs to be torn down and just get deeply discouraged. Because, and I love this statement. I didn't come up with this statement, but I love this statement. We keep trying to put a comma where God has put a period. That's good, isn't it? I mean, that's stuff you can put on Instagram or whatever. I mean, that right there, that's good. We keep trying to put a comma. No, this cannot end, this, I want this. Or we keep trying to put a period where God has put a comma. The point is that what we do is we miss that there are seasons in life. There are beginnings and endings, and so we rage against the seasons. Life has tons of limitations, beginnings, endings, and you can live with them, and you can find a sense of calm and peace in them, understanding that God has a better design than you, or you can live your life fighting it, and this is what so many of us do. You can fight against divine seasons, and when you do that, can I just tell you, it's just a setup for you to be miserable. You know what many of us are doing is that we're fighting against the season, and when you fight against a season out of your control, it's like beating your head against a concrete wall. And you think you're going to break the concrete wall down, but you're just going to bust your head. And you wonder why you have headaches all the time. Because you're banging your head against a season which is beyond your ability to manipulate and control. And so many of us, this is exactly what we're doing. Now, I understand. I'm making this kind of black and white, and I'm not talking as much about the gray stuff in between. I understand. This is not simple or easy. What I'm talking about here has some complication to it because we need to learn what the seasons in our lives are. How do I even know what season I'm in? How can I figure, is this a season to fight? Because there are seasons to fight. Is this a season to let go? Because there are seasons to let go. How do I even know? And this is why the very first week of this series, we talked about the importance of our connection with God, that we need the signposts He puts up, that we need to know what season we're in. So instead of raging against it, we can say, what is it you want to teach me in this? What's happening in the middle of this? But what makes this so hard is that we live in a culture which, number one, doesn't even acknowledge the existence of God hardly anymore, and number two, we've embraced, this is kind of the American ideal. If you work hard enough, if you give it everything you got, if you do it, there are no limits in your life. And if you're a millennial, you've heard that your whole life. You're a winner. You're amazing. You're wonderful. You'll never fail. And it sounds good, but it's such garbage. Come on, is that true? Some of you parents are right now even going, I should not have done that. Everybody was doing it. I felt like I had to. You know, the kid comes home with a failed thing, and you're like, you're not a failure. So we live in this culture that basically says there are no limits, but there are. And so what happens is because we live in this kind of, you know, we just keep banging our head against the wall. We just keep going, no, I can win this. I can do this. I can do this. And so I just want to challenge you with this, all right? I want you thinking about this. Instead of fighting seasons, is it possible to learn to live with them? I'm not talking about acquiescence. I'm not talking about just saying I give up, I won't try, whatever happens, happens. I'm talking about understanding that there are things beyond our control in life. Instead of raging against a difficult season, maybe we need to be asking God what He wants us to learn in this time. See, some of us are just thinking, I will fix this, I will fix this, I will fix this. And when we don't, we're thinking, I just want it to be done, I just want it to be done, I just want it to be done. And what we're missing in all that time is what we can learn through that. Because we're simply just raging against the season. We're rejecting it. Now, I could have taken this 1,000 different ways, and trust me, I thought about so many different things I could say. But I want to just use one illustration of this idea of seasons. And the example here is the idea of rest. Now, we know this, that nature itself teaches us that there are seasons for growth, spring and summer, and there are seasons for rest, fall and winter. And that is, don't miss this, that is divine design. God instituted that. That's God's plan. We live in a world of seasons. You read the Genesis account of creation. God works for 6 days. He creates the world and the stars and all this cool stuff and people and animals and everything. And then He gets to the seventh day and He does what? Can anybody tell me? He rests. Do you find that fascinating? Because remember, we're talking about God. He is omnipotent, all-powerful. God is not going, that was one of the worst 6 days I've had in a long time. I am wasted. I need to kick back and have it. God didn't rest because He needed to. God rests because He wanted us to see how we were built in a world of seasons, as people of seasons, and that there is a season for work and there is a season for, say it out loud, rest. There's a season for rest. But see, because of how we respond, this is the first thing that most of us rebel against. I'm not going to rest. I mean, we start from an early age. Have you ever had a kid sitting in a chair and you're like, are you sleepy, honey? And they're like, I'm not sleepy. Anybody ever had a kid like that? I mean, we all have stories of that, and they're so fun because they're like, the kid's like rejecting, I'm not tired, I'm not sleepy. And that's what we do as adults. We just basically say, and I mean, we live in a culture like this too. Our culture basically has said, if you work hard enough, if you do enough, if you just keep going after it, you will get it, you will make it happen. And so we're like, we feel like we have to make it happen and we can't rest. And so the first thing we jump ship on is rest. We just jettison the rest. We get rid of it. We go, and this is what people do. They work weekends. They work nights. They work and work and work. I mean, it's insane, really, when you think about it. And I've struggled with this my whole life. It's interesting to me because I think a lot of us, we think we can just skip resting. Somebody said to me today, they said, I'll rest when I die. So this is what we do, because we think it sounds gallant. It sounds like, yes, you're a hard worker. But what we do is we'll do stupid stuff like, well, I've only slept 4 hours in the last 2 nights, but man, did I get a lot done. And the money I made on overtime is so much that we'll be able to put the down payment on the boat or whatever it is you want to buy, all this stuff. And you think this, and it seems initially like you really experienced success because you sacrifice rest. But what happens is it seeps into your soul and you become more and more miserable and cranky. And yeah, you got more money and you got stuff done, but nobody wants to be anywhere near you because now you are a jerk. Come on, any truth in that? See, I see some people right now going, it's just a fact. Is that really what you want? Is that your goal in life? You want to become a jerk? You want to be a person that nobody wants to be around, nobody loves? You got a lot done. They'll be able to celebrate your death. That didn't go over very well, did it? So here's just a thought, all right? I just want to challenge you on this one because some of you, this is why you came. You needed to hear this. The season part, you're like, blah, blah, blah. But you get here now, you need to hear this about rest. You are damaging your life because you will not live in the seasons that God has divinely ordained. And so here's a thought. It's just kind of a play on words, but just think about it. How about working from your rest instead of resting from your work? How about, here's a thought. How about we celebrate rest as much as we do work? Sounds almost anti-American, doesn't it? Sounds lazy. But you remember, God worked for how many days? 6. And how many do you rest? So you still got to work your butt off. I'm not saying you don't work. That's not the lesson here. The lesson is work in season and rest in season. It's just a simple thought, really. But these things are so powerful. And when we do this is what Solomon said. Everything is beautiful in its time. There's something about that. So I just want to challenge you on this. It'll open doors for you. It'll open things up in your life that are so rich. Because this is what most of us are doing. We're trying to will ourselves to become better people. I will. We work so hard. I'm going to become a better person. And it's not working too well. And I think there are a couple of reasons for that. One is that we're tired. All the time we're tired. How many of you know this? That we make the worst decisions when we're tired. Somebody said, every bad decision you ever made was probably made after 10 o'clock at night. For me, it's more like 7, but either way, the principle is still true. I mean, I don't need to worry about willpower when I get up in the morning. 5:30 in the morning when I'm waking up and cheery and everything, I'm not thinking about eating junk food and doing bad stuff. 7:30, 8 o'clock when my lights are out. Cupboard door opens on its own volition. Snack food starts calling my name. Anybody ever hear that? Jeff. Come quickly. And I do, baby. Don't judge me now. Don't judge me. See, I think we don't become what we want, number one, because we're tired, but number two, simply because we're trying to will what cannot ever be done by our own strength. We need more than us. We need God's help. And when you defy God's defined seasons, when you don't rest, when you don't give yourself a day, a week, when you don't take time to really rest, what happens is that you push God away. It's not like him saying, I don't love you. As someone said, I love the way this is said, without him we can't. We can't be who we want to be without him. But without us walking in his direction, he won't, meaning he will never force himself upon you to make you something that you don't choose. So what kind of next step could it be for you? I mean, there's all kinds of them, really, I know that. Maybe it's the next step to actually ask God, show me what season I'm in. Maybe it's the next step to start taking a true day off. Not the typical day off you've been doing where you work like a crazy person and you need a day off from your day off. But actually you take a day off and you say, you know what? It'll all be there after this. That's not going over well either. I've said so many things that just seem to go out, and what about a day off, guys? What about sleeping 8 hours a night? And if you say, I can't, I try, but I can't, well, then be quiet in the rest of those hours. What about not pushing yourself to craziness or drawing some boundaries at work or home or whatever? Here's one. What about treating a holiday like Memorial Day as a day where you actually rest and delight in the day and not go, I got so much to do around here, I'm never going to get it all done. How about you consider that? What is the next step for you? Bottom line, God has a sign for you. It's in the woods of your lostness. It looks something like this. Live with the season that you're in. Maybe your next step is just to make a decision to give your life to Christ. If you do that, we'd love to have you mark that on the connection card and drop it off out in the lobby, and we'd pray for you. Maybe your decision is something else. We're going to take a few minutes and we're going to just give ourselves time to process that. So I'm going to pray and I'm going to ask you. You just heard all this, blah, blah, blah. What are you going to do with it? What's your next step? Help us, God, to know and move in your direction and take the next step. In Jesus' name.
Thank you for listening to the Thornapple Valley Church podcast. If you found this message encouraging, we invite you to share it. For more information, visit tbcweb.com.